forgot to dress down.
Okay.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, technically, it's dressing down because we're always dressed down. So.
Right?
Well, it's a joke. It's a joke.
Yeah.
Dang it, Matthew! What have you done? You ruined the joke.
Okay, guys.
Is there a joke? Oh yeah, me.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yesterday we worked on page 547. It was review. I hope you didn't overthink them and make them too complicated. Let's try to go over those quickly so we can get to factoring by grouping today. Okay. You guys worked on numbers 14 to 25. Okay. I'm going to write these down for you. Number 14. You guys are going to check your work. You should have 3x squared plus x plus 2. All right. So you are just putting these in order from descending order of your exponents. Number 15, negative x to the 4th plus 1. Okay, we're just going to flip those ones around. Number 16, x squared plus 3x plus 2. And number 17, 3x to the 5th plus x to the 3rd minus 2x squared plus 6x minus 2. There's no x to the 4th. It's okay. We're allowed to skip over some if they're not there. Okay. So that was the first 4. Writing it in standard form is the concept, and that means you write them in order, descending order, highest exponent to lowest. Okay. 18, 19, and 20, find the sum and the difference. You're combining like terms. You don't have to multiply anything. I'm hoping you did not FOIL for this section. But for number 18, you should have negative 2x to the 3rd minus 3. Okay? You put your x to the 3rds together. X to the 3rd plus a negative 3x to the 3rd is negative 2x to the 3rd. And 2 plus negative 5 is negative 3. Okay. 19 is the one that I would expect you may make a mistake on because we have to subtract that second set of parentheses. So it changes the sign of everything in there. And we put together like terms again. So we're going to have a squared minus 2a squared, and that's going to give us a minus 1a squared. So minus a squared. 5a minus a negative 4a. So that's going to be a plus 4a. 5a plus 4a is plus 9a. Negative 3 minus a positive 3, or negative 3 minus 3 is minus 6. Okay, so you should have negative a squared plus 9a minus 6. Right. Number 20, we're combining like terms. You should have ended up with negative x squared minus x plus 6. Okay, and then you had a rectangle. What is the perimeter? Okay, perimeter is when you add up all the sides. So we add up all the sides and we end up with 4x squared plus 4x plus 8. All right, so that first section, anything you guys need to go over in that first section? Okay. Next section, multiplying a polynomial by a monomial, and you had to solve them. Number 22, x equals 0. 23, x equals 1. 24, x equals 1. Sorry, w equals 1. And 25, 3x cubed plus 3x squared minus 21x. Okay, is there anything anyone would like to see? You got it wrong. You looked back at it. You still don't understand what you did. Or are you okay with all those review problems?
Can you explain number 21 to me?
Yeah. All right. Number 21 is the picture frame. Okay, and it's shaped like a rectangle. And it tells us that bottom edge is 2x squared minus 3x plus 1. The side is 5x plus 3. Okay. They're asking for the perimeter. And perimeter means you add up all the sides. So I'm going to make mine look like that, Abby, and fill in like what the top length is and the left-hand side. Okay. Now I have to add everything together. So basically I'm combining like terms. Okay. So for my x squared, I have 2x squared up top and 2x squared on the bottom. So that's going to be 4x squared. Now I'm going to look at my x terms. I have 5x on the left and 5x on the right. So that's 10x. And a minus 3x up top and a minus 3x on the bottom. So that's 5x, 10x. And if I subtract 3, that's 7x. And subtract that 3, that's positive 4x. And then I have to add up all my constants. Okay, so I have 3, 6, 7, 8. So that's where my 4x squared plus 4x plus 8 came from.
Yeah, I see what I did wrong.
Okay. Did you multiply, Abby?
Yeah, I multiplied. No, I added all the numbers, but I accidentally multiplied one set of numbers.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So today we're going to do some solving by grouping. That homework was review. We have to kind of go backwards because that's our review at the end of the chapter. We are on page, look in my book, about 521. Yeah, bottom of page 521, where we're factoring by grouping. Okay. If you have a polynomial that has 4 or more terms, we use a method called factoring by grouping. Okay. It is, if you look in the key concepts, if you look at the key concepts there, it says a polynomial can be factored by grouping only if all of these conditions are met. There are 4 or more terms. Terms have more common factors that can be grouped together. There are 2 common factors that are identical or additive inverses. Okay, that sounds like a lot of words. It's easier just to work on it with practice problems. So turn the page. All right, we're going to look at example 3. Example 3a, it says factor each polynomial. And it gives us 4q to the qr plus 8r plus 3q plus 6. Do all 4 terms have a common factor there? We're on page 522. Emma, do all 4 terms have a common factor? We have a 4, 8, 3, 6, qr, then an r, then a q, then nothing. So do they all, is there anything you can pull out of all 4 of those, Emma? Any numbers or any letters they have in common?
No.
No. Good. But if you look at the next section, they grouped them, okay? If you look right down below, they grouped them into parentheses. And it says 4qr plus 8r. And then the other set of parentheses says 3q plus 6. Okay? Now, if we look at that first set, 4qr plus 8r, we can pull out a 4r because 4 and 8 both have a common factor of 4. And both of those terms have an R. Okay, so they did that. And then if you look at the second set that says 3q plus 6, they factored out a 3, right? Because 3 and 6 both have a common factor of 3. All right, notice when they did that factoring out, both sets were left with a q plus 2. So that becomes your common factor. And you end up with 4r plus 3 times, or plus a q plus 2. These usually work out this way because they're book examples. And they use the FOIL method just to make sure that they were right. They did it backwards to see if they would get back what they started with, and they did. Okay. They show us another example in part B that has 4 terms. So they group it, the first 2 terms and the second 2 terms, factor out what they can. Okay. The best way for us to do this, though, is to practice grouping these together. So we're going to try another example. Okay. So do you guys have your workspace? Mrs. Palmer has her whiteboard right here. I'd like you to put them in your notebook so that you have these to look back at when you're working on some practice problems.
Got mine.
Okay. Perfect, Matthew. Nice. Right there in your notebook where you'll never lose it. Okay. I want you to write this problem down. We're writing down 2xy plus 7x minus 2y minus 7. Okay, 2xy plus 7x minus 2y minus 7. There's no common factors with all 4 of these. It does have 4 terms, and it looks like I can group them. Okay, so step 1, group them. We're going to put parentheses around the first 2 sets, the first 2 groups. And all right, I'm going to factor this one kind of weird, though. I grouped the first one. That wasn't hard. I just put parentheses around it. But since this was a minus, and a minus, I put my minus here and then changed that to a plus. So that's still minus 2y minus 7. So go ahead and write it.
Mrs. Palmer?
Yes?
I have to leave because my sister has to take me somewhere because no one's going to be home. But can I come back to your office hours because I had a question for you?
Oh, yep, absolutely. I'll be there from 2 to 3 today.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Mrs. Palmer, I have a question.
Yes.
Could we have put 2xy and 2y into a group and 7x and 7 into one?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Uh-huh. And like Lauren, I really like that you said that because I'm taking a look at the way that this is grouped. Do you like the way that that's grouped, Lauren? I have a feeling that you don't.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Okay, what's wrong with it?
You could factor out 2 and 2 and 7 and 7.
Yeah. Okay. So if I just break it up with my first 2 and then my second 2, it's not really very helpful. So Lauren's using the commutative property, and she's like, you know what? I don't like grouping it like that. So she just wants to move them around, and I'm agreeing with her. And she wants to group them like that. That looks a lot better. Okay, because if we factored it, the 2 and the 7, that's not going to do anything together, but the 2 and the 2 and the 7 and the 7 will work out fine. Good. All right. Okay, Lauren, so keep going with that. You wanted me to do it like this. That looks so much better. What would you factor out of that first set?
2. The 2y.
Yeah, 2y. We look at the numbers first. They have a 2 in common. And then we look at our variables, x, y, and y. So Lauren's right. We can only take out y because the second term does not have an x. And in parentheses, we're left with x minus 1. Okay. Emma, could you factor out the second set? Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah.
Emma, what would you do for the second part?
Just 7.
All right. So Emma wants me to factor out a 7. I'm left with x minus 1. It's crazy the way these work out like this because they're book problems, right? Oh, and x minus 1. Now, when I see that both of these have x minus 1, it's like I can factor out x minus 1 from both of those. So I'm going to factor out x minus 1, and I'm left with 2y plus 7 as my answer. So basically, we did 3 steps, kind of 4 because we switched the order around. This was like step 1 and 2. Switch the order and group them. Factor out what we can. And then we factored again. Okay. Let's take a look at 3b. So this one is in your book on the page there where it says 3b. It has the problem 3np plus 15p minus 4n minus 20. All right. 4 terms. So I'm going to take a look at those. And we have to think like Lauren did last time. Do we want to switch them around at all? Or do we just want to group them the first 2 and the last 2? Okay. Matthew, what do you think? Do you want to group them the first 2 and the last 2? Or would it be better to switch them around?
I think first 2 and last 2.
Good. Yeah, the first 2 and the last 2 is going to work the best. So step 1, we're going to put parentheses around the first 2 and the last 2. But here is that part where I'm going to make a little change. Because both of my last 2 terms have minus signs, I'm going to write that minus there, minus 4n. And this one's going to become a plus 20, okay? Because that would make it a minus 20 when I distribute. Minus 4n minus 20. So your second step's going to look like this, okay? Let me have Gavin factor out what he can from the first set, all right? So Gavin, 3np plus 15p. What can you factor out of that?
3p.
Good. Gavin said factor out 3p. That makes me left with n plus 5. Okay. Minus. Karen, look at the second set. 4n plus 20. What could we factor out of there, Karen? Look at your numbers, 4 and 20. What could we divide both of those by?
Hold on, I'm muting.
Thank you, Karen. All right, so 4n plus 20. What could we factor out of, what could we divide both 4 and 20 by?
Okay, 4 and 20.
What can we divide 4 by?
Okay, come on. Okay, Karen, come on. Okay, I think it's 4.
Yes, you're right. It is 4. We're going to factor out 4. And there's no variables that we can take out because the second one doesn't have a variable with it. So we factor out a 4 and we're left with n plus 5. Oh, all right. So now you have 3p times n plus 5 minus 4 times n plus 5. Okay, they both have the factor of n plus 5. So we can factor that out in our next step. n plus 5. And if we factor out n plus 5, we're left with 3p minus 4. Okay. So there we go in 3 steps. Okay. Let's look at 3C. All right. I'm going to try to get this one more example in for your notebook. 3C. All right. So you guys write that in your notebook. Go ahead and copy the problem down. It says t w to the third minus 2 w to the third plus 10t minus 20.
Can you hold that up?
Yep.
Or say it again?
Well, I just wrote down the problem so far. T w to the third minus 2w to the third plus 10t minus 20. Okay, and I'm going to just factor these out. I'm going to group them first 2 and the second 2. And actually, when I do that, instead of rewriting it to save space, you can even just put your parentheses right here for this one. All right. Okay. Lauren, what can I factor out of that first set?
W cubed.
Yeah, just a w cubed, right? There's no number I can take out. Only the first term has a t. What am I left with, Lauren, when I take out w cubed?
T minus 2.
Yeah. So that gives me w cubed times t minus 2. Okay, Matthew, what can I factor out of the second set?
You could factor out a 10, so it'll be 10, and then in parentheses, t minus 2.
Good. 10, and then in parentheses, t minus 2. They both have the t minus 2. All right, good. So I can factor out t minus 2. And Nathan, what's that going to give me for my final answer? What's the last step going to say?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So it's going to be t minus 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then w to the third power plus 10.
Yes, good work, Nathan. That's your final answer. Okay, I'm going to give you some of these to work on. On page 523, I'm going to give you numbers 5 through 12.
All right, thank you.
You are welcome. And if you're having any problems when you're working on these, you can come see me between 2 to 3. Or if it's not during that time, you can send me an email. Okay, we can set up another time to meet, or I can just email you an answer back.
Okay.
You guys have any other questions?
No.
All right, have a good day.
All right.
you.
Bye.
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 Bye.